to all the tall kids and teenagers and even adults out there. If you're feeling sort of weird in your own body because of your height, if you feel like you're attracting too much attention perhaps, and you're not particularly comfortable with it, especially if you're an introvert like myself, for example, I would like to offer you a few tips, maybe how to overcome this and how to become more comfortable with yourself. And also I'd like to share a few examples from my own past, so maybe you can relate and understand that you're not alone. So before the hormones kicked in, I was kind of a medium-sized, sort of chubby kid, kind of a little fat, big cheeks, all that kind of stuff. And then in the span of like 1 or 2 years, I shot up to 190 centimeters, I'm pretty sure. Now I am 193 or around that. And that came with a lot of sort of difficulties for myself. For example, at physical education lessons that I already didn't like, I was almost always in front of the line, because they would always kind of line us up from tallest to shortest. And so I would always have to perform basically, you know, whatever we were doing in front of everybody, and I hated that. As an introvert, that's like, and with like a stage fright kind of a kid, it's one of the worst sort of nightmares all the time. And twice a week basically I had to endure all this shit. Also, something that didn't help with my self-esteem and kind of self-worth kind of things is the fact that in those 1 or 2 years I developed, when I shot up in height, I developed a lot of kind of stretch marks, and at that time especially they were pretty visible. So like every time you go into like changing room, like locker room or whatever, some guys, right, like would even ask like, what the fuck is like with you? And actually like in whatever, like in the first year or something, I didn't even understand what they're talking about, because I didn't like notice it myself, because like it's kind of hard to see, it's kind of behind you. And then I noticed it and I was like, wow, that's kind of not particularly good looking at all. And so again, that kind of affected my self-esteem for quite a bit. But then I kind of just like, well, I can't fucking do anything about it. I tried like some creams or whatever the fuck I remember. Nothing particularly works. I was like, well, whatever. I would just say like, yeah, I shot up by like 10-15 centimeters and my skin just didn't grow as fast. So like there's like little kind of breaks in it, kind of, well, not breaks, but you know what I mean, stretch marks. And like, well, can't do really much about it, so whatever. So now let's talk about some tips for you. First of all, I want to tell you that for sure, the longer you live with your own body and the less you kind of focus on like little things that might be weird and awkward with it, the better you will be, and the less you will notice it, the less you will care about it. Another thing I would like you to sort of take into your arsenal of how to deal with stuff is whatever, I don't care, I don't give a shit, fuck off, that kind of stuff. I feel like this mentality is actually can be pretty decent for you in the long run, in the sense that if somebody, like, you know, some guys in the locker room would ask me like, what the fuck is that? Like, what's wrong with your back? I could take it very personally and then spend like a day thinking about it. Or I can just say it as facts, you know, that's the fact of my body. I grew up very fast, and so my skin just didn't grow as fast. Now I have the stretch marks, whatever. This could be useful for other scenarios as well, right? Like if you're being teased, for example, like if somebody calls you in Russian, they call me like bilda, which is like a beanpole or like lamppost, whatever, something like that in English. Instead of like being offended, I would say like, what, are you jealous? And I feel like that's a good sort of way to reframe the conversation, because like I'm pretty sure it's not a brag or anything, not a humble brag or anything like that. It's just a statement of facts once again. That I'm pretty sure I almost never like bullied anyone really, because like my mother raised me with this notion that you need to help kind of less protected, smaller kids, whatever, instead of bullying people, right? So in that regard, like I never had even like the inclinations to do it. I would only respond if somebody else first attacks me. And where am I going with this? Where was I going with this? This is the problem with unscripted videos, that at some point your brain kind of... What was I saying exactly? What was I saying exactly?
5 minutes later.
Oh yeah. You need to understand that if you're in school or maybe in the university, it's already kind of hostile environment, I understand that. But the only people who would bully you are actually probably most likely they're either complete cunts, which happens, but it could be also because they're insecure about themselves. So, you know, like you can just rephrase it in a way that's not offensive to you. At least if we're talking about just some light sort of teasing, you know, not physical bully, not like constant mental abuse, you know, like that's a topic for absolutely like other video for sure. If somebody just calls you, whatever, teases you one time, twice, whatever, a week, a beanpole, whatever the fuck, something like that, right? Don't take it too seriously. You probably might notice that people who are teasing you, most likely, they're shorter than you. And so it is their way to kind of project their own insecurities onto you. And when they're teasing you, it's probably because they're jealous, you know? So like I'm saying, employ this tactic. Are you jealous? Or, you know, that kind of version of it, right? Another thing, and this is going to be, I feel like, might at least be very useful for both kids, teenagers, adults, for everybody basically. Listen, I know it might sound shallow, okay, but hear me out. Study how models look like, how they pose, how they handle and kind of show themselves, present themselves. Let me show you a quick example, right? Like, let's say I'm like that, sitting like that, right? Or walking like that, right? Heads down, shoulders down and in front of you, right? Like, what kind of energy does this project, right? And even if I'm gonna be smiling, right? Like, it's like, it's sadness, right? Most of it, or like pathetic, whatever. Versus this, right? Or even that, right? This versus this. There's a big difference, right? And funnily enough, if you've ever seen a Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan, if you've never seen that show, I don't care if you like dogs, if you have dogs, don't have dogs, interested in that, just watch that show for or like several episodes and see how he's talking to humans, not to dogs. That's the main fucking selling point of that show, how Cesar Millan is talking to humans, not how he handles dogs. And he was always talking about that. Chest in front, shoulders slightly back, chin up. You're a different human being, you're projecting different energy. And I'm not about all this, energies, not about that giant horse shit, right? But undeniably, you can look at this, right? You can see it yourself. This versus this. Difference, giant difference. That's why I kind of want you to buy yourself like a magazine, like men's health magazine, women's health, whatever, fitness, something like that. And take a look how they pose, right? This is actually how I learned a lot of things about style and about, it's kind of a little embarrassing, but once again, don't think it's too shallow. I feel like, because now I know that I'm kind of on autistic spectrum, and at that time when I was growing up, I didn't know that. Maybe I wasn't at that time, I don't know. But that was my approach, like, how can I study something so I can apply it to myself? And it was, I included like posture, how humans sort of behave, how they present themselves, how they look like, right? So, if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, share this video. Especially, please, I would really like to ask you to share this video on like Reddit or whatever, because it helps smaller channels to grow, and Reddit obviously doesn't really allow you to post your own content. So I would definitely appreciate if you can do it for me. Yeah, I guess there will be more videos sort of like that, just sharing stories, and if you want to see more of them, yeah, follow the channel. It's been Adam Stardust, I'm Stan, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.